Had the offender not suffered the mental condition that he did, the sentencing judge would doubtless have been considering a whole life term of imprisonment. But neither the judge nor this court can ignore the medical evidence as to the offender's condition, which led to these dreadful events, or the threat to public safety which the offender continues to pose. Thank you very much.
Just been hearing there from Baroness Carr, the Lady Chief Justice of England and Wales, with that summary, that oral summary with regards to the sentencing of Valdo Calocane, who killed three people in June 2023, and also for the attempted murder of three people. The question was whether the indefinite hospital order passed down by the sentencing judge in January 2024 was unduly lenient. That was being questioned by the Solicitor General on behalf of the government. Well, we just heard there from Baroness Carr that there was no error in the approach by the judge, that the sentence was not unduly lenient, that the sentencing judge earlier this year made the reasonable conclusion that public protection was best served by that hospital order. And we heard there from Baroness Carr that it was very likely that Valdo Calocane will spend the rest of his life in hospital, and that without these psychotic episodes that he was experiencing, then the whole life tariff could have been considered. But the three judges there in the Royal Courts of Justice sitting at the Court of Appeal saying that there has not been an unduly lenient sentencing for Valdo Calocane. Let's bring in Rachel Venables, who is outside the courts for us. Rachel, this will have come as a shock to many, I'm sure, but the judges laying out their reasoning as to why they believe the original sentence was appropriate.
Well, there's no doubt that this will have come as a real blow, certainly to the families of the victims, those who were harmed, of course, that night, and also the three people who lost their lives, Grace O'Malley, Kumar, Barnaby Webber and Ian Coates. In fact, we understand the parents of Grace O'Malley, Kumar, Sanjay and Sinead were in court. They are in court here today, and they apparently, according to people inside, looked visibly distressed, quite emotional, as you can imagine, certainly as the hearing got underway. But this perhaps in some ways not a surprise to those legal watchers, because as you heard the Lady Chief Justice say early on, the bar to overturning a sentence in this scenario is very high. They had to see the previous judge, the sentencing judge, as having committed really a gross error in his evaluation of the evidence and in his imposition of that sentence, which was an indefinite hospital order. And we know that indefinite hospital order now will remain. Valdo Calocane will stay in hospital. He's currently at Ashworth High Security Hospital near Liverpool. That's where he's being treated for his paranoid schizophrenia. And as the judge there reiterated, his condition is so severe that he may well end up spending the rest of his life in hospital. But certainly the families and the Attorney General who brought this appeal here to the Royal Courts of Justice today wanted a more severe hybrid order, which could involve some prison time. Essentially, if he was ever deemed to be fit for release, he would then serve out the rest of his time in prison. And it was really interesting, the arguments that the Lady Chief Justice Baroness Hale considered there, talking about whether or not the sentence was unduly lenient. She talked about how his paranoid schizophrenia was the only reason that Calocane committed those awful acts back in June last year. But she also talked about the real need to protect the public. And many legal experts and those in the criminal justice system suggest that an indefinite hospital order is the best way in these kind of situations to protect the public, because once the individual goes to prison, there is a higher bar almost, or more difficulties to treating them. That was certainly the arguments that were put forward. But as far as the families are concerned, and as far as the Attorney General's office are concerned, that's not good enough. They'll be deeply disappointed because they still see that there was an element of culpability in what Calocane did on that night in June, and that there should be a greater sense of punishment, a penal element, time in prison associated with all of this. But as you heard the judge say, as I mentioned already, it was a high bar to try and overturn it. With this unduly lenient appeal, they've considered the evidence and they've decided that 32-year-old Valdo Calocane should remain serving out his indefinite hospital order instead of being upgraded to a hybrid sentence.